Hi there. Today we're looking at digital lobbying. I've looked at lobbying and its nature, whether it's ethical or not, some quality or characteristics of a lobbyist. Now, since we are in this century where the digital divide is ever showing, the question is, has lobbying gone digital? And the answer is yes. People have been lobbying online or using digital means. We're going to look at the nature of this digital lobbying. This is going to be a quick lecture, but I'd expect that you would also go and read some more on it. I'll provide you with some documents that you could use for that purpose. So, what is digital lobbying? Now, the phrase digital lobbying refers to a novel or a new manner for private and public topics and organizations to handle public affairs and lobbying efforts via the use of digital resources. So, basically, digital lobbying is conducting lobbying digitally or via the use of digital resources. Now, in what forms are they? Some are in email campaigns. You remember what lobbying is, trying to influence decision makers, you know. So, any activity you use to influence decision makers. So, it could be through email campaigns, it could be through online petitions. You are familiar with some of the ones that are listed here. It could also be a virtual rally. This is not common in Ghana, but if you remember during COVID, Hope Campaign organized a virtual rally in support of Nana Addo Dankwa. Now, hashtags like "Let's Fix the Country" is also a way by which people can lobby government to change policies or the way they are doing things digitally. Of course, since we are talking digital, online advertising can also be used to target the grassroots to put pressure on leaders or decision makers to make the right decisions. So remember, we talked about grassroots lobbying. So you realize that on this online advertising is being used to target the grassroots to put pressure on their governments. There's also crowdfunding. Of course, if you're lobbying, one of the things you would need to do is to raise funds. And people raise funds digitally, which is crowdfunding using platforms like Kickstarter, GoFundMe to raise money for so in support of a cause. So you realize that all the things that lobbyists do in person, yeah, manu manu, they have found a way of going about it digitally. So in today's world, if you are a public relations person or if you're a lobbyist and you do not familiarize yourself with ways by which you can go about your lobbying digitally, you would lose out on a huge chunk of the population who live online. Yeah, right. Now let us look at the growth of digital lobbying. Is it really big out there? Well, from the examples given in the earlier slide, you know that it is big out there. Now, gradually, a number of institutions who were lobbying through, individuals or face-to-face lobbying are now gradually transferring more funds into digital lobbying than traditional lobbying. Now, one of the reasons is it is cheaper because, for instance, if you want to get the grassroots going, if you are doing it face to face, you would have to pay someone or people to be going around making announcements, trying to interact with individuals or groups to try to, convince them of what they need to do as grassroots to put pressure on legislators. And that's a lot of money. But if you run adverts online, for instance, with a message, it could be a video or a text message, a lot of people are getting it for probably less than half the price. So it means that you are going to be able to do more if you're an organization and let's say you are spending 50,000 whatever currency on lobbying. You could spend the same 50,000 and get more feedback or get more effect than if you had spent it on the traditional ways of lobbying. Now, if you remember during COVID, for instance, the European Parliament began taking decisions through email voting, and many were lobbying through Zoom calls and emails and whatnot. And gradually, even after COVID, some of these practices are still ongoing. Take, for instance, where judges were passing sentences via Zoom and YouTube. The convict or the accused will be in their holding cells or wherever they are. The judge will also be at home or wherever, probably in court. And then they have the session, and then that's it. And even after COVID, some counties and some places are still continuing with it because they find how safe it is, for instance, because transferring the prisoner could expose you to the chances of prison break happening. But if they are in the prison and they're having this meeting, or there's no risk out there. So you realize that gradually doing things digitally, not only lobbying, doing things digitally has gained support. And so, again, if you're a lobbyist or if you're a student of lobbying and you do not take digital lobbying seriously, it could come back to bite you. In fact, there are people who now only focus on digital lobbying. If you want them to do face to face, go to parliament, meet people here, there, they may not be able to do that or they may not be interested. Now, this is often for introverts. So if you're an introvert here and then you think, okay, maybe I might focus on digital lobbying, well, there you go. Yeah. Now, we're still on the growth of digital lobbying. Now, digital analytics are used to predict voting patterns of legislators. And when we say digital analytics, let's start from the Facebook analytics and the Google analytics. So, you can use it to know how many people have visited your website, how many people have clicked on this or that. Aha. So these digital analytics can be used to predict voting patterns of legislators. One of the ways they can go about that is these legislators are using social media, posting their thoughts and comments about one thing or the other over the years. So these analytics can pick what these legislators have been commenting or saying over the years about one particular topic and then generate that per what the sentiments that this legislator has been making over a couple of years. When it comes to voting, this legislator is likely to vote in this direction rather than in that direction. You get it. Now, another thing is AI translates large chunks of information to easy to understand, predictable formats to help predict future regulatory trends. So, AI could pick Ghana's law on, let's say, taxation over the years and then try to see what changes have been made to Ghana's laws over the years and then predict that, well, it appears this is how Ghana is going. So maybe in the next year or two, it is likely we would see trends like this. It's likely Ghana would, because Ghana has been following this country's trend, or Ghana has been trying to be more liberal. So you realize that these tools make it easier even to predict what is about to happen, predict who is likely to vote in what direction. And then it helps you, the lobbyists, even know who to target and who to leave because, okay, these people, they're already sold on our idea, or these people, they are so sunk in what they believe in. It's a waste of time trying to convince them. Let me look for the fence sitters, those who are sitting on the fence, or those who are yet to decide, as we call them, the floating voters. Uh, And finally, the use of consumer data to target specific messages to grassroots. Now, because of digital lobbying and what analytics can do and all that, you are able to target a specific message to a specific grassroots. So you realize that, okay, these people are, remember when we said in the other lectures that you would have to look at your target audience and your message. So you may want the same response or result, but you can target or craft your message in such a way. If maybe it is going to university students, maybe they would want to hear some keywords or some things that would be done. Yeah. Aha. Now there are other target groups who would also want to hear something else. And social media allows you to target specific groups and people with different interests. So if you are lobbying for, let's say, let's use cannabis. If you are lobbying for cannabis to be legalized in your country, AI could help you, or these social media analysis could help you know people on social media who enjoy cannabis, who probably have used it as their profile picture or who have commented on the good things about cannabis over the weeks, years, or whatever. And such messages could be targeted to them, and you would realize these people would be tweeting or retweeting or saying positive things about cannabis to get the conversation going. So you realize that it is very easy, or it is easier to target your audience, it is clearer, measurement is easier than in the traditional lobbying approach. So these are some of the reasons why digital lobbying is growing or has grown today. Now, this diagram just depicts what we just talked about: online grassroots advocacy, analytics, return on investment, artificial intelligence, and how it is helping digital public affairs in general, and then data lobbying, as we have talked about. Now, what are some of the challenges of digital lobbying? Now, you realize that lobbyists exert undue influence on legislators due to power of social media. Now, social media undoubtedly is powerful. When something happens in person over here, it's probably only the next 20 people or 30 people in the neighborhood who may have heard of it and may by word of mouth be transferring it. But it takes time and it withers down some way, somehow. So the pressure on lobbyists is not as much as it is when it is on social media. So yes, pressure is good, but when the influence of the pressure is undue or is too exaggerated or is too huge, it prevents the legislator from being able to comfortably weigh the option and say, what are these people saying? Is it really the right thing to do? They're unable to do that because the pressure that is coming from social media, the tweets, the insults, all of those things put undue influence on these legislators, and then they go ahead and pass laws and legislations that may not in the long run benefit, you know, the society. Another challenge is astroturfing. Now, astroturfing is creating the impression that grassroots support is there for you. Now, you see how some people buy likes and followers? That's astroturfing in digital lobbying. So they make a post about a certain topic, and then they get people to, sell them likes and comments and impressions, so that anybody who goes to their page goes, wow, 10,000 people have liked it. Then people are in support of this idea when people aren't. So that's one another challenge with digital lobbying. It's also difficult to keep up with new tools. Trends on digital platforms can be difficult for lobbyists and legislators. So lobbyists in trying to lobby, there are always new tools coming, online. Oh, now this is what we use. Now this one has been upgraded. If you were using Facebook, um, what do you call it? Ad manager 6 years ago, you realize that it is almost totally different from how it is now. So if you're using it then and you think you can use it now, there are a lot of things that may confuse you. So how to keep up with some of these tools and trends and make sure you're always on top of your game is difficult for lobbyists and then also for legislators as well. Because if we are targeting the legislators to tell them what we feel in the society, tell them what our challenges are, But these new tools and trends and platforms are such that they are difficult for these legislators to understand. And then the person you are talking to actually isn't listening because he or she does not even know how to listen. Yeah. How many legislators would you find on Snapchat? Yeah. Or knowing how to use Snap and knowing how to. So sometimes these are challenges that you face when you are using certain platforms as a digital lobbyist. It's also difficult for lobbyists to cut through the noise in digital platforms. This is something everybody knows. Social media is cluttered. If you're reading, you're studying, and you make a mistake, you're listening to this lecture, and you pick up your phone, and you're going through something, the next thing you know, you're gone. You missed out on a lot of things we have discussed. And that is because there is too much information on social media. Now, when there is too much information, people struggle to consume everything. You can't. So you realize that your message may not be able to get to the grassroots or the people you wanted to get the effect that you would want it to have because there's too much noise on digital platforms. So these are some of the challenges of digital lobbying. Now, there are phases of digital lobbying. Basically, you begin by monitoring, you analyze, you evaluate, you position yourself, you take action, and then again you do evaluation for the results. Now, I'm not going to go into this because these things are taught in your strategic PR class, so you are conversant with all of these things. Again, in the next academic year, we are going to, in the next semester, sorry, we are going to look at measurement and evaluation in public relations. So we'll delve more into these things. So, in conclusion, I want to ask a question. Looking at the challenges that digital lobbying has, do you think it should be encouraged in Ghana? Do you think digital lobbying should be encouraged in Ghana with the astroturfing and even now we have what's it called? What's it called? Deep fakes, where people create videos of public people, public persons talking on a subject matter when in actual fact the video is a fake video. But it is so well done that you think it's actually this president or this lawmaker who is sharing his or her thoughts. So, looking at all these and probably the understanding of social media in today's Ghana, whether people are well educated, knowing what is false and what is true, misinformation, disinformation, do you think digital lobbying should be encouraged in Ghana? This is food for thought. So, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of digital lobbying. If you have any questions, please remember you can type your questions in the comment section in any of the videos. So whichever question you have, type the question under the comment section in that particular video, and then I shall respond to your questions. Thank you.